the headgear is hot. My gum guard's killing me.
My nose is blood.
There's blood going down the back of my throat. And honestly, I thought this. I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. I was thinking, like, I do not want to do this. Why? I don't have to put myself through this. Why? And then I just pushed through. Essentially also what you had in the island was like, if I get voted out now, big whoop. Yeah. But then you push through and you have that resilience and you persist through it. And then you realize, like, I'm actually so glad I never gave up. I'm actually so glad that I did push through. Yeah. Yo, what's happening, guys? To a new episode of the podcast. Being quiet, so I apologize for that. Getting my brain bashed in, several times a week. So today's guest and co-host, we got Anela, the runner-up for Survivor. Condolences.
Oh, cheers, mate. Cheers. This is what it is.
And my co-host, Chris.
What's happening, guys?
Chris has been on, I think, the person that's been on the most on this podcast, other than myself, obviously.
Yeah, facts.
So,
dynamic duo.
Yeah,
the runner-up, bro. How does it feel to, go through all of this and unfortunately not win? It was R1 million you could have won, huh?
Yeah. Listen, the athletes in me.
Just put it a bit closer.
Okay. How's that?
Perfect.
Yeah, it was a surreal experience and everything, but the athlete in me is definitely still licking a few wounds. Like during the weights, I always say to myself, if I were to win it, like I would never want to run it back. But to have gone that far and only get that far, like I've already got the next plan to try and to run it again.
Can you? Is it possible to run it back?
Well, I mean, it would depend on if they do like a redemption or all-stars, an all-star season. I think I'd have a good shot in getting into that just by virtue of the fact that I came second.
They generally do those all-star things. It's not always your first person who wins it. It's generally the person who comes second or third or so.
Or
and they
favorite,
bring them back.
yeah.
Or favorite person.
So with this all-stars thing, it would be like, okay, let's say you, Nicole, previous runner-ups, and maybe like top threes, they all come together and they do like a Survivor joint mashup type thing.
Yeah, exactly that. It's just a second chance at the cherry. And in my head, I've already got plans in place for if that opportunity does come.
Well, here you go, Mnet. I hope you listen to this. If you are listening, okay, we are on Survivor All Stars, and Anela needs to be in it again.
Hit me up.
Let the boy know.
So let's talk about, let's just say, getting started for Survivor. How was it? Did you go to like tryouts, or was there like screenings to try and they see like your personality, or how much of it was, trying to win people over to get on Survivor, showing, all aspects that would be shown on Survivor when they air it?
Yeah, look, so the first sort of part of the audition process was you have to do a video of yourself. And that, I think, I tried to keep it as simple as possible. I literally just had my phone in front of me at my lounge, and I just try to reflect who I am in the space of 3 minutes. Thankfully, that was enough to get the second sort of invite back, And from then on, that's when I sort of started ramping it up a bit, When we got to the questionnaires or the live interviews, that's when I, really dived into things that people wouldn't know about me, some things that not even my closest mates know about me, because I knew that that's obviously part and parcel of, showing that you have something to give and offer to the show.
Yeah, it will show a bit of vulnerability, I suppose. I think that's kind of what attracts them.
Exactly.
If you show your vulnerable side and they're like, okay, yeah, he's definitely going to bring something to the show.
One of the toughest questions they asked me was like right on the spot. They say, tell us a secret that you've never told anyone. And that was a challenging question to answer. But
what was the question? Or what was the secret?
Listen, man, I don't like to kiss and tell. And
okay, so it was related in that regard. Okay,
yeah.
Only exactly. Mnet knows about it. No one else will ever know about it. The world will not know it about Smash. No. Only Mnet knows.
And what did they say? Like, okay, well, tell us something. We won't publicly put this answer out there. Or did was there like a disclosure, or you kind of just, hoping that they didn't share the secret?
Yeah, at the time, there weren't any sort of contracts or anything put in place or any NDAs. So I just told that to them in trust that they wouldn't, relay that or share that again, Okay.
Makes sense.
So now you get the call that you are going to now be on Survivor.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind? What preparation do you start to think you're going to have to do?
So immediately, like off the bat, I thought, okay, it might be within my best interest to actually start watching it. I was not necessarily one of the guys that were like the biggest fan of the show. And I think that's one of the things that they also liked about me is that, this isn't like another super fan. And yeah, that was the first sort of step. It just kind of formulates a plan of action and see how I'm going to actually go about playing this game. And in doing that, then I also started looking at aspects of the game. So as far as, like the shape that I wanted to be on, I would have spoke to you, and sort of found out, JC having been someone who has trained me before, I'd asked him, like, what's the best sort of way to approach this? Do I go there in the best shape possible? Or do I go there a little bit heavier because to account for the fact that, we'll be losing weight and becoming, so those were some of the things. Obviously, COVID sort of made that decision for me with the lack of gymming and everything. So I went in there in the worst possible conditioning I've ever been in. But thankfully, because of how long I lasted, it actually started helping me closer to the end of the game, as I lost the weight. I think I watched back two seasons of the show, so season 6 and season 7, and then I watched an iteration of the American version of it.
Yes.
And that's pretty much the preparation I did. And through watching that, it helped me navigate and sort of formulate a strategy for me to use during the game.
Okay.
Chris, I know you and your girlfriend Steph were big followers of the show, and you were really enjoying, a new episode would air. They are there the second it's aired. So are there any questions that like a super fan like yourself would have?
Well, look, I was a bit delayed. Like, she would watch it that night. She would be home in time, 7:30, to watch it. And then she would tell me, she's like, oh, you watching? I'm like, no. I watch it the next day, then I'd catch up and all of that stuff. But I mean, our reason I watch it is because it's mates with Smash, you got to watch it. And plus there was another Cares boy in it as well. Paul.
Shout out.
So that's why I was like, when I saw him on as well, I was like, yes, there's 2 Cares boys in here. So I was like, this is going to be a good show. But what was I going to say, speak about? So if you think, like, let's bring up that whole tribal council kind of thing.
Okay.
Obviously, I mean, I'm not a person that stresses and has anxiety and that stuff. But when I watched those tribal councils, I was like, geez, like Nico asks questions on the spot. What goes through your mind when do you just come up with whatever comes to your mind? Because he throws in questions there. Like, I was like, I wouldn't know how to answer that. I sat there, I was like,
Bro, it literally is. It's like word vomit, You say the first thing that sort of comes to mind when he asks you, and you just hope that it's what people want to hear in terms of the other contestants, the castaways. But that's the beauty of it. Like he likes to put you on the spot, put you sort of under pressure with this question.
But that's the thing. That's what I noticed as well. He literally asks questions that is going to you're going to throw yourself under the bus the moment you say it. Like, you're like, did you really have to ask him that question? I sat on the opposite side of the TV. I was like, bro, don't be a dick about this. Like, just let the man be. He's playing his game. He's being quiet about this. Oh, yeah, but then you did this. So I'll tell everybody about it. And you're like, it's kind of like, that gave me stress, honestly, from the side of my TV. I was a bit nervous about that. And then the challenges as well, bro. I saw... You didn't enjoy the swimming parts, eh, boy?
Okay, well, let me address this. Full disclosure.
Yeah, I hated the swimming parts. When there was a swimming challenge, I was like, oh, smash, boy. I was like, I don't know what to do, dude.
Full disclosure, there was about 4 challenges that included swimming, one of which I didn't participate in, and the one where I almost drowned, you know? The other 2, I was fine. I was leading the one, you know? So there was an element of knowing how to swim, for sure. But that first one on day 14, I think that was the first swimming challenge in total, out of the 4. That one was brutal. It was like a point in the game where I think the lack of food, the lack of sleep was starting to take effect. And, it'd been raining terribly for like the past 9 days. And I think in that particular challenge, I still remember like when it sort of got laid out to us what the challenge is going to be, when Nico explains what you're going to be doing, I said to my tribe straight away, let me go first, And I went first in that challenge. I got out to the thing that you had to untie. Like I got out to it fine. It was like a puzzle piece, And I started using this thing like a floaty device. Little did I know that I wasn't doing, I probably needed all 4 limbs because just kicking and holding onto this thing, the current was just taking me.
Yeah.
And I just saw myself go further and further and further away from where I needed to go.
Yes, that looks stressful, bro.
It was intense. I must give kudos to Chappies for sort of removing himself from the game in that moment and sort of coming through to help the boy out.
But he also, that swimming ability was insane. Like, I think took any swimming a challenge. I was like, okay, no, this Oak's got it in the bag. From a person on the other side of the TV, like, the moment there was swimming involved, I was like, Chappies is going to take this. And this Oak was just, you should have seen this Oak, my bro. He's a
triathlete.
He won every swimming challenge. And then at a point, I think he was the person to win the most challenges consecutively in a show.
So you obviously,
crazy.
Being someone who's actively in sport, participated in sport your whole life, have had to go through difficult trainings and hardship that you kind of had to endure and push through.
Yeah.
Was like the swimming challenges, the things that you were like, I don't want to do this, but I have to if I want to progress. Or what do you think was the most difficult for you personally?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I mean, I don't think I ever approached any challenge with like this is going to be tough. I think all of the challenges at its core need to be something that everyone can do, from the most superior athlete to, a novice.
Yeah.
So I never really looked at any challenge as if it was going to be difficult. Even the swimming ones, it just so happened to be that one ended up proving to be difficult, which is a testament of like how difficult what could be seemingly easy challenges become when you're starving and and lack of sleep. And so I think the elements certainly make those challenges a lot more difficult. And I think that was probably the most difficult thing to contend with was, all these aspects of life, socializing with people, doing the physical challenges, all of that becomes a hell of a lot more challenging when you are in survival mode.
Yeah. Well, also being in survival mode, because also especially lack of sleep, maybe dehydration, lack of food. How much weight did you actually lose? What weight did you go in at and then, finish at?
Yeah, boys. I went in there at 93 kilograms, which is easily the heaviest I've ever weighed in my life.
Yeah.
And by the time I got off on day 39, they sort of take you back to the hotel room, make you stand on the scale. And I was surprised to see I was 80 kgs. So I lost a solid 13 there. Let me tell you, it didn't take me long to put it back on, but
you had to make up for all the eating. The moment you got back, you had to make up for the child that you missed over
well,
there.
it took me about 2 weeks before I was eating like 6 meals a day again, because that's how much I would typically eat, like 6 small meals. But for the first 4 days, I could hardly, like I would use 1 meal over 3 sittings. Breakfast was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it took a while to readjust back.
That's fasting at its finest.
And now has it, built a better appreciation for food? Like, don't waste food. Don't, it shows you that, like, obviously we're so privileged in our lives where, like, if you don't want to finish your food, you don't really finish it. Whereas, the people in severe poverty and lack of food, like you kind of had, then has it built that appreciation now?
100%. I mean, to go for so long, 39 odd days without, and this is not only with food, just to go without, you get an appreciation for everything. You get an appreciation for the relationships you have with people who, like you consider family and friends. You get an appreciation for, a roof over your head and the food thing, I mean, like, if I dish up something, I'm going to finish it. If I don't finish it, there's someone, along the road that would, honestly be appreciative and grateful for it. So it certainly does. There's a lot of things that you take out of that game which you can use in your everyday life. Yeah.
And down to your core, what do you think, that maybe you didn't realize about yourself, or, you realize about yourself through going and playing the game of Survivor, essentially? Things that you maybe didn't know that you had in you to do, or, even like the backstabbing or the cunningness or those kind of things. Did you what did you learn about yourself that you didn't expect to learn?
So with regards to that, there was good and bad things which I learned, They say the further you go in that game, the more of yourself is going to be revealed. And as someone who has been an athlete or, has played rugby and now I coach it, one of the big motivators for me wanting to go on the show was to sort of see if I could take a bit of my own medicine, which I'm always giving to my players, this whole thing about resilience and pushing through dark places and everything. And from the negative side of things, I think one of the things that I was surprised is that I wasn't as resilient as what I thought. Because there was 2 occasions where I definitely felt like, you know what, I'm done. Like if I go home today, I'm happy. I'm glad that I pushed through it, which maybe does show some resilience. But I was surprised that like I had those moments of weakness. And I think from a positive side, I suppose I'd be very bad at my job as a coach if I wasn't good at this aspect. But I was really surprised at how much influence I could have on someone else's decision-making process, That was, I think, the strength of my game. And it was difficult to sort of express it at the end because it was so, like, tacit, A lot of things that I did were, like, framing and suggestion and stuff. So it was, that was something that I was quite pleasantly surprised at, just how much of an influence I could have on someone else's sort of decision-making process.
And that was quite evident, though. Like, if you watch from a person on the couch, you could see that it was like everyone trusted you, had trust in you. They would come to you to discuss an aspect, okay, who we voting out tonight. No, you feel strongly about this person for the reasons why. And everyone was like, okay, then you just watch everyone discuss it. And they're like, no, Smash wants to go for this one because of this reason. And then eventually, but then there was also that time where you went for a vote and it didn't sway and you were like, it didn't go according to how you wanted it.
Yep.
And then you were like, okay, no shit, I'm backing out of this. I'm not doing this. And then you tried to, obviously, I think it was Kieran that you tried to screw over. And then he was like, then you were like, okay, now I need to come clean to him and tell him, okay, listen, I'm going for you. I've backed out of my other decision because it didn't go my way. But I mean, I definitely think that after that, I was like, nah, you gone. I was like, nah, it's you know what, it's done for him. But I definitely agree with what you say now. Like your persuasive skills and just your influence that you had on people, it was evident. You could see it because everyone was like, let's go with what he says. And they actually took your word for it most of the time as well. Like you told them, this is what I want to do. Let's go with it. And everyone was like, okay, cool. So definitely evident.
And even with regards to that, I mean, not all of those decisions were the right ones. I made a few missteps. With the votes when Marisha left, Sean was so convinced that Tyson was going to actually play this idol.
Yes.
He said, I think you should, use your advantage. The advantage I had at the time was that I could take away someone's vote. He was like, I think you should use that on Tyson so that he plays the idol for himself.
Yeah.
And Sean read that completely right, but, people followed me in that decision. So not all of my decisions were correct. Yeah. I think the worst one was that Kieran vote.
Yes.
I think it's the biggest rookie error like I've seen on the show.
Yeah.
Effectively, what I did was, I hatched a plan to go for Kieran, who was honestly probably the strongest player at the time when it was us 6 left. And when I told the guys that were outside of our alliance what the plan was, they started sort of changing it up a bit. And to be honest, their plan was more foolproof. So, now that I'm off the island, I can put my hand up and say my ego got in the way. But the minute they started changing it back, I just was having none of it. So I then told Kieran that, listen, they're gunning for you. But again, as I said before, when you're on that island, the longer you're there, the more of yourself is going to be revealed.
Yeah.
I probably should have just kept my mouth quiet or kept it shut at that point. But I then also told them that I was the one who set that plan in motion, So I was a little bit too honest in that moment. And that was almost my ticket home, Yeah. But to be honest, I think that whole vote in particular is, it's when you get to this point, when you get to the end, it's easy to sort of go down the rabbit hole of like, where did I go wrong? What could I have done differently? For me, I feel like I'm under no illusions as to why I came second. Like that vote would have definitely left a foul taste in a lot of people's mouths and also put in question, the strength of my game for sure.
Okay.
And so obviously, you know, you were good at persuasion and influencing people. Did you have any prep on that? Because I mean, when we were in school, we did a Dale Carnegie course, and he's released a book. It's how to win over people and influence people, or something like that, whatever his book's name is. And you know, a lot of it was, you know, the power, not really the power of suggestion and, you know, manipulation, but it was more just how to, you know, in an interaction with someone, win them over, get their trust. And was there any of that preparation? Did you watch like any series like Game of Thrones, like those kind of things where like there's backstabbing and there's plotting behind the scenes and that kind of stuff? Or was it kind of just, you know, you saw something play out like, okay, cool, what would be a best decision if I did this?
Bro, there was a lot of planning, I won't lie. So, you know, I don't read a lot at all. I think the last book I read was Animal Farm in grade 8 or whatever, whenever it was. But
you probably didn't even read it then.
No, I didn't.
I
watched the movie. I watched the movie. But yeah, so when I knew that I was going to go on the show, I had 2 books, The Art of Persuasion and The Art of War, actually. By Sun Tzu, which, you know, I think those 2 books gave me a lot of a competitive advantage, I think, with regards to that psychological aspect of it. And it was small things, you know, anyone who knows me knows that I dislike the fact that I'm an educator. I have a lot of respect for teachers, but it's something I've always struggled with doing, but it was an avenue to get into rugby coaching, right? But when I was on there, you know, I said, this is going to be a great, you know, point, you know, like if I said I'm actually a teacher, because it's traditionally seen as one of the more respectable jobs. Everything from the way I was dressed, you know, I mean, anyone knows me knows that I don't wear, you know, khaki that often, and I don't wear, you know, like the cowboy hat or whatever you call it. But I just felt like, you know, if I look a certain way, if I, you know, speak a certain way, that will certainly help me. So there was a lot of things that I put into consideration, and a lot of things which helped me sort of get an element of initial trust just off of, you know, the first look type of thing, you know. And then when it came to...
Was this for the audience or for...
No, for the
contestants?
For the contestants, yeah. Everything I did was with the contestants and castaways in mind. And then when it came to like sort of gaining trust and all of that, you know, a lot of the times it would just be the way you go about putting your plans forward. You know, I wouldn't say, listen, we need to go for Chris, he's a threat. I would like maybe say to you, JC, like, you know, I think Chris is arguably the strongest player here and could be a threat to us moving forward, but what are your thoughts, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like a lot more interactive and stuff, and that sort of helped me get across what I wanted to do without actually saying what I wanted to do, which helped me a lot. Yeah,
allowing the other person to think about it as well. That's why, you know, it's the same as what you do in a classroom as well. It's like get the kids to interact. Okay, this is what I think I want to do. This is what I think we should do. What is your opinion? That's a typical teacher move.
It's literally, it's inception at the end of the day. You're literally like planting that idea in their mind to make it think that it's their own, but actually you're the one that's making them think that way.
Exactly.
So you full out K-Way now. So you got a K-Way hat, K-Way jacket. It looks dope, by the way.
Thank you. Shout out
So
K-Way.
you obviously have had a lot of doors open for you now in terms of brands wanting to work with you, people on social media following you. Was there any like time during the process? Because obviously you filmed, you know, most of the almost all the episodes until when, and then they were released weekly. Were there people that were like messaging you that you'd never heard from since maybe school or whatever? People that weren't actually your friends and now people trying to be your friend again?
So not necessarily people who weren't my friends and then, you know, sort of trying to reach out, but there was definitely lots of moments where I, you know, was approached by a complete stranger on social media and stuff, which I really appreciated, you know. It was crazy. I'd never in my life like woken up and seen 100+ followers in one go. And that happened on the 2 occasions of when the contestants were released. And then obviously when it was the finale, like I just got like an influx of followers, which was cool. But Yeah, I certainly had a few interesting DMs as well.
I can imagine.
A few have slid in the DMs there. So,
Has it helped your ability to slide into
oh,
DMs?
mate. Well, listen, man, I've always had the gift of the gap.
Okay.
But yeah, it certainly has made things a little bit easier. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't the case.
I
Yeah.
feel like that is the case. At the moment you are on TV,
Yeah.
it is an open door, my bro. Everybody just like, okay, oh my word, he's on TV. Get in the DMs. I mean, if we can even just with the SOD as well on Love Island, I think we know that Oak's DMs also definitely exploded after Love Island. So I can
Why
only
do you
imagine
think,
yours.
in terms, because you obviously being on Survivor, let's say Assad, why do you think maybe it's the generation and the audience that were watching like Love Island compared to Survivor? But why do you think like Assad, I mean, he grew like 20,000 followers or something because of Love Island? Do you think maybe because the audience was 13 to 20, whereas the Survivor audience is maybe 16 to all ages, you know? And maybe those older people don't have social media or don't go follow someone, whereas someone that watches Love Island, they will most likely follow, you know, someone that's relatively the same age as them.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. You know, I say this with the greatest respect to Survivor and to Afrikaans, who literally did an amazing job with the production of the show. But I think a show like Love Island has a bit of a wider reach, and it's because of that, as you said, the age or the demographic that it appeals to. There's a lot more, as you say, 13 to 30-year-olds on social media as opposed to Survivor, which also is, you know, it's a show for family. Most of the people that come up to me or recognize me are like little kids. But I definitely think that's exactly it, is that I think it has a little bit of a bigger reach.
Yes.
They could definitely do with improving it, though, because from what I heard, it was not the best of production.
You know, if we look at production value, Survivor is definitely on a different level and like an international standard compared to, you know, all the complaints and everything that Love Island received.
Yeah, exactly. And again, shout out to Afrikaans for hooking it up like that.
And they did do well.
They did a fantastic job. I mean, I think you know, we finished in December, and then, you know, the show only comes out in June. So they really, you know, they take a lot of time to make sure that they have a quality product that comes out.
Yeah, well, you think of it, it's what 8 seasons of Survivor South Africa. Love Island was what, season 1.
Yeah.
And I wonder
So
if they'll
you're
do a season 2.
Well, from what I've seen on Instagram, there is talks of season 2. But I mean, yeah, you're comparing 8 seasons versus 1 season.
Well, you two are both married men, but, you know, if in a hypothetical scenario you were single, would you ever do a show like Love Island?
I've been asked. I think Steph asked me this question as well before, bro. I don't know what my answer was. I think I said no.
Think about it now.
I think I said no.
Pretend Steph's not going to hear your answer right now.
I think I said no. I don't remember. I don't know if I would, bro. I don't know if I could. I'll just stick to being a lonesome self. I don't know if I could.
Well,
I think,
no, for myself personally, no disrespect to obviously anyone that has chosen to do some, like, without a doubt, I would do something like Survivor.
Yeah.
But for my brand, and, you know, I want to be on brand with what I do. You know, I don't want to do something that doesn't really align with who I want to be seen as. And I don't want to be seen as someone that's, you know, like, obviously, you know, how you did it in terms of being tactical to win over people and to double cross people essentially, but you weren't using sex. You weren't using, you know, sexual feelings.
Yes.
You know, you're using your physicality, your brain, and, you know, manipulation. Whereas with Love Island, I don't want to try win over people and, you know, progress through the way I look or the way I act sexually. Like, for me personally, that's why I wouldn't do it. Also because, like, it kind of, I would feel degraded almost. And also degrading of the other women that I would be using to try progress, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, Assad made a great success from it. So, you know, he's got way more followers than me, so I can't knock what he's done, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to do it. But either way, my social media presence isn't big enough for me to attract something like that.
I think I sort of say similar sentiments in that, you know, I like the show, I enjoy watching it, but, you know, as far as my brand goes and me, you know, having aspirations of becoming a professional coach, it just would not align at all. So, it will always just be a nice to watch for me.
But also, what's interesting about society is, think about all these people that have done. I mean, if you look at like Tommy Fury, he was on with his girlfriend. What was that show? It was at Love Island,
Yeah, it was Love
UK.
Island, yeah.
So I mean, look at the success. He's a semi-professional boxer. He's made a great success from that show. I think his girlfriend's got 6 million followers. He's got like 1 or whatever million followers. Like, look at the success they've made. And the way society is, they don't think less of him because of him making a success through, a show like Love Island or any of those kind of shows. But I think it's personally the feelings that I would feel, not about the perceived view of other people.
Nah, I hear you. Yeah, I think from a personal point of view as well, I think I'd definitely struggle with sort of the way in which you have to go about playing a game like that. Like, like we said, not that it's manipulation, but there's a lot of, I mean, I've never really been the most like trustworthy person, or I've always been single, So I just feel as though that wouldn't be something I would want to necessarily do or put myself through. But yeah, kudos and shout out to anyone who does do that. There's certainly a need for it. I mean, that's why the show does well, and that's why they have all those different iterations. But I think that when you look at that Tommy example, the UK, I think, and like overseas is a little bit, I think, further along the line. And probably that's why there's a little bit more of that acceptance. I think if you look at us here in SA and stuff, we still sort of getting into that mentality, and maybe a little bit more traditional or set in our ways. So, yeah, I definitely think, it would have been a different reaction for me as an athlete or as a coach to pursue that here as opposed to if I was doing it that side.
You see, the UK is like you got your Geordie Shore and all of that stuff. And the moment South Africa decided, let's do Josie Shore, it was like, this is the biggest bunch of rubbish known to mankind.
But that was actually funny.
But the UK, but the UK like that stuff. Really.
Yeah.
Like
but also the production value that they put out is a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
So the people don't look stupid because the audio is not synced to what the people are actually saying. So like, there's just that professional production value that does make it look superior. So what doors now have been open for you? I mean, you're obviously now working with K-Way.
Yeah, no, so...
Or is it Outdoor Wear, or who is it?
It is, so it's K-Way and Cape Union Marts. They've just released a new range called Elements. And it's a fantastic range, right up my alley. A lot of just normal lifestyle wear and active wear. So... yeah, that's something that I'm currently busy with. I also had an unbelievable opportunity to coach with Coach Stoic Brain.
I think I saw that on your Instagram.
Who, if you don't know, Stoic Brain was the skills and attack coach for the Springboks before the World Cup. It certainly has opened a lot of doors, and I'm extremely grateful for it. I definitely would have preferred R1 million. But yeah, I'm grateful for the doors that it's opened.
So your goals as a coach, I remember we were discussing you wanted to go somewhere overseas to go pursue this goal. Is that still a goal of yours? Have your goals maybe changed after Survivor, or what's your plan going forward?
I was off to Wales last year before I got asked to do the show. I'd already done the visa and everything, and then two weeks before needing to leave, I did the show. So that's now back on track. I'll be going to Wales at the end of November to go pursue coaching there at the University of South Wales in Cardiff. Sure. But I think the biggest thing that I've sort of taken away from the show, and something I didn't necessarily think about before, was maybe a line of work in broadcasting or commentary. I was surprised at the overwhelming reception I had to how I articulate myself. When you engage with people on Twitter, you're going to get a lot of the good, you're going to get a lot of the bad. And, for the most part, I was just seeing bad. So I got to a point where I didn't even want to engage with the show at all. I don't know if I watched the last 5 episodes just because of how much negativity I was getting. But the one, I suppose, positive thing that I saw was, people thought that I really articulated myself well. Yeah. So, yeah, that's something I've certainly considered now getting into.
So speaking of that now, obviously being in that reality show and all of that stuff. So the negative side. So you say there was a lot of negative backlash at you. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? Like, are you able to like mention a few things that people had actually said to you that was like, geez, like at you and you're a bit of a dick for doing that, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of the, I've always believed that if you're going to engage with the social media, be aware of the fact that there's going to be good and bad. You know, otherwise
100%.
stay away from it altogether.
100%.
So I was more than happy to sort of engage with it, and the further along that I went and did the show, the more sort of, I think, just like when you're in survival mode or defense mode, your brain sort of picks up on the negativity quicker than it picks up on the positives. But as the show was going on, I just started seeing that, a lot of people aren't happy that I'm necessarily making it as far as I'm making it, or the way I'm playing. He's done nothing so far. He's dumb. He's an idiot. And that stuff was certainly difficult to contend with. And I'm very appreciative of the show that they do have psychologists in place. That if you want that outlet, you have it. But what I think some people lose sight of is that we were recorded 24/7.
Yes.
And one episode, it encompasses 72 hours from one tribe and another tribe, and they need to condense that into 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I really struggled with understanding why people had such bold statements to make on effectively 45 minutes, not knowing, necessarily how everything else has gone. You know what I mean? That was difficult for me to contend with. And I think because of the way the results sort of played out, with me only getting the one vote and Nicole pretty much wiping the floor with me. Yes. Shout out Nicole, honestly, a absolute legend. I think for me that gave me, it was actually like a sigh of relief once the show ended, because it gave me context as to why what was shown of my game was shown. Like I was like, okay, this makes sense, because when I was watching it, it was one of the things I struggled with, But I think her having beaten me so convincingly, I think gave me sort of that sigh of relief. I was like, okay, it actually makes sense now why, my game went down the way it went down, type of thing.
People are dicks, honestly. Like what goes through people's mind when you're watching a TV show and you're like, obviously a reality show like Survivor, what makes you sit there and think, you know what, today I'm in a bad mood, so I'm going to go and throw hate towards one of the contestants, whether it be on Twitter or Instagram, and say how cuck he's playing the game. Like, what goes through a person's mind to think, that I wanna bash someone today just because I feel like it. Like, I don't understand people's mentality and how their brains work, that you are so bored in your life that you have to go, now someone who's playing a smart game of Survivor, for instance, you're like, I'm going to bash him for just because I want to. Like, you've got no ground to stand on, but I'm going to do it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the tallest trees catch the most wind.
True.
And fortunately, if you aren't getting any hate, if you're going to probably get, so essentially most of the time, get more love than you are going to get hate. But, if you aren't getting hate, it means that you actually aren't doing something right,
Exactly.
Because you aren't going to do everything the way other people want to do it, and you aren't going to do things that people think, I would have done it differently. So I think at the end of the day, if you are getting hate, you kind of have to deal with it, but you also have to realize, like, okay, cool, I'm actually at the point where I'm getting hate. Like, that's quite cool, actually, because essentially, if you aren't getting any hate, you're probably not getting any praise either.
Yeah.
So, you're not, catching that wind. You're not in the public eye enough to be maybe irritating people, but this issue might not be in the public eye enough to be influencing people. So I think at the end of the day, you kind of just need to look at it and be like, that person spreading hate is still spreading my name.
Yeah.
That person spreading hate is still paying the same DSTV fees as the person that loves me. So at the end of the day, they are helping me further myself as much as anyone else. Positive, negative, you're still paying me the same price. And you know what? If you want to spread my name, cool, because there's no such thing as bad publicity.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's sort of just trying to adopt like a stoic mindset, Anything that is happening the way it's meant to be happening. And even with engaging with fans of the show on social media, the best thing about the show and why the show is produced is because there's going to be discourse. There is going to be characters you like and characters you don't like, and things and moves that you like and moves that you don't like. So I definitely think that there is a place for it. I just sometimes I think and it's credit to, or fair enough, for the fans, but sometimes I think that people forget that there is someone on the other side of that comment that's that's engaging with what you're saying. So just be mindful of that type of thing. But you're 100% right. You want people that have a difference of opinion, that have a different way of viewing things, And yes, I could sit here and say, you guys are making these comments based on, sitting on a couch where, in shelter, fed, come play the game.
Yes.
But I honestly, I don't mind the discourse around it. I just felt that once it was starting to affect me, the best move for me was at the time to sort of just take a step back and remove myself from it, and that was just to protect my peace. Because I'm all about, like mindsets and energy and everything. So I could feel that there was a negative energy and presence sort of affecting the way I was just going about, my daily routine and stuff, Even teaching at school was becoming a bit challenging. So I just said to myself, let me not engage with this at all, start recognizing the good things. Like, hey, you did the show. Yeah. You came, you made it very far. Be proud of that. You've done something that not many people could do and stuff. And the minute I started thinking like that again and recognizing all the good things that I did have around me, it definitely became a lot easier.
But essentially, there's also, Chris, you're right. It is someone that is sitting on the couch and also, as you say, in shelter, full stomach. It's someone that's probably unhappy about something else that's now taking out that frustration out on you because you didn't do something in a TV show that they're busy watching, that the DSTV that their mom probably pays for. And like now they're upset about that. So you also kind of need to look at it and see where it comes from. Because you can't be upset about, it is difficult. The other day, I posted a reel of me doing boxing and a guy commented, just stick to bodybuilding. And I was offended because firstly, like I've been working really hard at boxing and I've been trying to improve. I definitely have improved, but I'm not trying to be this professional boxer. I'm just I set myself a new challenge and I'm trying to work hard on improving the boxing skills that I have.
And kudos to you on that, by
Thanks,
the way,
bro.
man.
I appreciate that.
Shout out there, bro.
And like I got upset with him and then I kind of had to realize like, bro, who cares? Like, who cares?
I'm bettering myself right now,
Yeah.
Like your sort of comments isn't gonna stop or hinder that at all. And on that, so how far are you away now from the fight?
Getting close, bro. By the time this airs, it'll be exactly 2 weeks about. So 2 weeks.
2 weeks to go.
For people watching yesterday, probably I think is going to be my last sparring session. So that's Thursday. And then we just, tweak a few things. I don't know if we're going to be sparring the week. That's the nice thing about boxing is essentially because it's white collar, we box with headgear, 16-ounce gloves. What you do at sparring is essentially the exact same thing you're doing in a fight. Yeah. So, once you've prepared, obviously slightly different stress levels. Fight or flight's definitely going to be there a lot more because like in sparring, you can kind of take a knock and have half a second to regather yourself, whereas in a fight you can't because and that's the difficult thing about boxing now that I've had to kind of become accustomed to is it's the most lonely place on earth in that ring. There's no one else. Like when I first initially started, I could take a knock and I'd look at my coach. I'd look at Road and be like, yo, that was hectic. Whereas you can't do that. If you look away, they're going to come back with something else, some other combination that's going to put you on the floor. Whereas like with other sports, you might have teammates. So you can kind of hide behind them sometimes. And that's like what I would do when I was playing rugby and I'd be a little bit unfit and I'd be tired. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm center. At least I know 9's going to pass to 10. Then I'm going to get the ball. Whereas with boxing, it's like, I'm getting knocked, like I need to, that's why like the fitness aspect comes into it so much. It's ridiculous. Like I thought I was fit. I thought I could handle certain types of training and then I went into boxing. I was like, this is a different story. Yeah,
but that's the thing. Like, I would challenge anyone who sort of thinks that they are, a good athlete to go and put themselves into a discipline. And I say discipline because that's effectively what boxing is, you know. It's one thing to be athletic, but then when you put yourself through that kind of training regime and that kind of sacrifice and everything, it's a whole different ball game. So I take my hat off to you for doing that.
That sport is something else.
And I mean, if you compare it to bodybuilding, going back to that guy's comment, when I would do bodybuilding, the training sometimes is difficult to do a leg day now and then, but you know, you can still kind of push through the session. If you're tired, you had a hard day at work, you can push through the gym session. Whereas if you go to a boxing session, if you go to a sparring session, it doesn't matter how tired you are. You have to be on it. You have to be on it, bro. Because if you're not on it, you're going to get knocked out. And, you know, there's no hiding. If you're at the gym, like I'm a bit out of breath, let me take an extra 30 seconds to recover. Whereas in the ring, there's no 30 seconds to recover. You know, you got that minute in between rounds. But other than that, you know, you full on. Exactly. So I've been seeing you doing some boxing now at Golds, eh?
Yeah.
Is it Golds? It is Golds.
Yeah, it is Golds. So that was also another, you know, opportunity that sort of presented itself. Is a mate of mine there that trains there. He just asked that I come do some boxing with him, and I'm still at a very, very early days novice. I've only learned how to hit a jab and a cross, but. Yeah, give me a couple months and maybe you and I can also go a couple rounds.
Yeah, bro, I would love that.
We can organize. We'll ask Peter there at Smith and be like, listen, Pete, can we get Jesse and Anela in the ring there for a little white collar boxing match, bro?
Well, actually, I wasn't me. It was the guy that sparred him before me. But the person I was supposed to spar against yesterday pulled his bicep off the muscle, off the bone.
That's crazy.
So. We need a sparring partner, bro. So if you want to pull through,
to Smith's, bro.
Listen, bro, I'll probably go about a good solid minute and a half before I probably gassed out completely. But I'd be more than happy, bro.
But it's awesome. I mean, yesterday when I came to watch you, bro, it's such an atmosphere there at Smith's. It's like it's a whole vibe. You walk in there, and I mean, I was just going to go watch and film him boxing yesterday. And it's a whole vibe in there. It honestly is. It's no wonder that what's his name? That small high school Gary. That lives there, bro. Because he's obviously training now He's training to go.
Doing
he's training to go pro.
He wants to go pro, but he's doing the same. He's fighting obviously someone else on the night.
But I mean, he was chilling there yesterday, and it looks like he didn't want to leave. Yeah. And I was like, I think that's the lifestyle you got to be. If you go in that industry, you've just got to stay there, my bro. But I would stay there if I was into boxing and that was my sport. I would also live there.
What I was very
such a vibe there.
What I was surprised about is when I first went there, like, you know, they obviously put some Vaseline on your head to avoid some cuts. Peter, Kevin's coach and Rowan's coach, takes his fingers, shoves it up my nose, puts Vaseline in my nose. I'm like, bro, I've met you maybe one other time. You're sticking your finger in my nose, or both fingers. When my nose was bleeding, my gum got I was tired. Rowan sticks his hand in my mouth, takes my gum got out. It was just like the passion. And it was just like, this is so cool to be involved in something that requires so much passion. I mean, it's COVID. You know, he's still sticking his fingers in my nose. It's COVID. He's still, with all my blood, taking out my gum guard. Like with bodybuilding and, you know, other coaches, online coaches, maybe you'll go watch a show of your athlete, but you're not going to stick your hand up their nose. You're not going to take the gum guard full of blood out. It was just something I was so surprised. I was like, it's like a brotherhood. It's so, like, because it's such a barbaric thing that you're doing and, you know, it requires such a level of respect. I think anybody, no matter who it is, if you go into the ring, you deserve, you know, a huge amount of respect and applause.
No, 100%. I mean, that's the thing I love about, you know, combat sport. Don't know if I'd ever do it myself, but just on that, like, I mean, I was watching the UFC fight the other week, and it was Dan the Hangman, you know, from New Zealand. He fought, and he got a win. And like him and Israel in his last fight, they both sort of like dedicated their fight to one of the guys that was in their corner that had just recently passed away. And like you said, everyone that's part of that training regime and part of your team when you are preparing for a fight, it's such a interpersonal journey that you all go through together, you know? I mean, you need to know your fighter both in the ring and out the ring, you know, what they're going through. And yeah, shout out and kudos to the coaches. I think there's a lot of things I, as a rugby coach, could adopt from the way a fighting coach would go about treating one, like an individual fighter or just the team as a whole, you know? Because what you do for one fighter, you can't necessarily do for another. But yeah, no, it's definitely sick to see, and I'm glad you're enjoying that you're doing it, bro. I'm keen to have a look at that fight in 2 weeks' time.
You actually probably are more you're celebrity status essentially. Like, let's not look at amounts of followers on Instagram. Let's look at the amounts of eyes that have seen you.
Yeah.
You know, you're essentially celebrity status. So maybe you and Assad go through a little boxing match, or someone that's also, or like you and Rob, or someone that's been in like on the stage, on the screen, something like that. Because I mean, they've done that before.
Yeah.
Where like celebrity music artists have fought against
Yeah, I've seen that.
rugby, ex-rugby players, that kind of stuff.
Like
Just a nice little celebrity.
Yeah.
Listen.
exhibition match, bro.
I don't know. Like Rob is like twice my size, so I think Assad is probably a better starting point. But yeah, I listen. I'm honestly enjoying so much, training at Golds right now and starting this boxing journey myself. And although it's still at its infancy, I think it's one of those things. I think you had said it earlier, Chris. It's like you get a bug for it once you start, and you just go further and further down that rabbit hole. So I could definitely see myself, the more I learn and the more I get into it, wanting to actually maybe have a fight myself. So
yeah.
Well,
I think that's definitely what it was with you. It's just like, it's just the fitness aspect. I'm just going to do it just to push my body to another limit. And then next minute that bug bit, and it was like, okay, cool. You know what? I'm training. I might as well just attempt a white collar boxing match. It got suggested to you, and I don't think there was any hesitation for it. It was like, okay, sweet.
It was literally like I'd done maybe a week of training.
Yeah.
And it was just group classes.
Yeah.
And then Rowan phones me up, my current coach, and he's like, bro, there's a white collar in October. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yo, let's do it.
Exactly.
I've had maybe 2 weeks of group classes. You can't even classify that as boxing experience or boxing knowledge, but let's do it. And, that first time in the ring, the first few knocks, like I was there out of breath. The headgear's hot. My gum guard's killing me. My nose is
blood.
there's blood going down the back of my throat. And I honestly thought this. I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. I was thinking, like, I do not want to do this. Why? I don't have to put myself through this. Why? And then I just pushed through. Essentially also what you had in the island was like, if I get voted out now, big whoop. Yeah. But then you push through and you have that resilience and you persist through it, and then you realize, like, I'm actually so glad I never gave up. I'm actually so glad that I did push through.
Yeah.
And that's like the most rewarding feeling ever, I mean, first and foremost, before I started with Golds, I actually was doing a lot of those classes with Rowan, who's an unbelievable coach. And it was also from a fitness point of view. So for you to have gone through those classes, which are not fun at all, and said, I want this times 10. I don't know. Yeah, you definitely built different, brother. But
I think it's a problem with my mindset.
Yeah.
Whereas if I start something, I have to try be the best at it. Obviously, I know I'm not going to try be a professional.
Yeah.
But if I do something, I have to go to some level of extreme. And I've given up more for this boxing fight than I have for competing.
Yeah.
My diet is just as strict as if I'm doing a competition. I've prioritized different things to, have better lung performance, better VO2 max, better, like there's so many sacrifices. I'm now like actively thinking like, okay, well, I have to get enough rest. I have to sleep. I have to do this ice bath. I have to stretch after every workout. Whereas with bodybuilding, it was like, I'm not going to stretch. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to have an ice bath. I'll just, push through because I could. Whereas with boxing, like if your shoulder's sore, your shoulders, it's going to probably be the reason why you get hit a few more times. Like there's certain things you have to prioritize with your, I mean, look at Michael Jordan, obviously not boxing, but, or was it LeBron James that said, like, to have $1 million body, you need to put in $1 million. Was it Jordan or James?
I'm not 100%
What was
sure.
either? I think it might have been James.
James,
where,
yeah.
in a year, he will spend $1 million just on recovery and just on, supporting some sort of, thing that's going to benefit him come the next session. It's not just, and did you go through that like during the course of Survivor where it was like, you know what, this is going to benefit me for tomorrow, or this is going to help me do this, or if I, was there any certain things that you thought like, okay, well, I need, like, I don't know.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's not a lot of downtime, It can appear like there is downtime, but if you think that there's downtime, you're obviously not playing the game, and chances are you're going to be gone before you expected, So for me, I think a lot of the time when I was decompressing or taking walks by myself or away from everyone, I was, playing game theory in my head. What is Kieran's best move? Why would he want to work with me, or why would he not want to work with me? And, you know, kind of going through all these like prisoner dilemmas sort of thing with every single contestant. And that, I mean, that was something that was very vital in order for me to sort of map out what my next move was going to be. You know, on 2 occasions, I found myself in a minority. You know, the first time before merge, I was in a 6-3 minority, and the second time, post-merge, it was 6-2, myself and Nicole against the rest of the Vuna. So, you know, when you are at a point of like disadvantage, you need to sort of constantly be thinking about what's the next move. And, you know, like it was perceived as flip-flopping, you know, but when you're at the bottom, you kind of can't also just, you know, speak from a point of authority, you know. That has to then change, you know. So a lot of the moves that were made from that point of the bottom was like anyone but me type of thing.
Yes.
And it was that survival mode sort of that you just get put into. Which is why I have so much respect, by the way, for like Chappies and the way he went about things. I know a lot of people weren't fans of his like food stealing or eating rice and stuff. You know, I stole 2 Future Life bars at very early on in the game. It just goes on to that.
Well,
Like,
even that stealing that Future Life bar was to help you progress through the game.
exactly. Right? It's like that will to survive, man, you know. Sort of, you know, anything like to win, not win at all costs type of thing, but anything you can do to just sort of keep you there and keep you in the fight a little bit longer. And yeah, I mean, I don't regret having stolen those Future Life bars. They were hella delicious.
Yeah, that's like Chappies as well. That's why you look at it from the perspective, people are like, oh, no, this guy's doing this. Everyone hated him for it. But then when he speaks about it, so technically what he did is he had a little stash, stole rice. At night when everyone else is sleeping, he would go catch crabs. He would go do extra little things, go get coconut. And he would sit and chow at night. And that's just to, like you say, to better his game. He's got that extra energy going into the next day. And he's like, okay, I should take this challenge with ease because I've got that extra fuel. And that's just using your big brain and thinking ahead of things. And like, okay, this is going to better my performance. I'm going to do well now because I had 2 coconuts last night, and I had 4 extra crabs than what everyone else had. I had a bit of extra rice. You know, it's strategy. It's a smart
and
move.
those things, honestly, the smallest bit of food there makes the biggest difference. Honestly, I mean, yeah, every single time. I didn't win many food rewards, by the way. I think I probably won the least amount. Only 3 occasions that I actually think I ate. You know. But yeah, every single time that did help, I could definitely feel it the next day in the next challenge, you know. So yeah, any advantage you can get was a good advantage.
Yeah, damn straight.
Really bummed that I didn't get to have my beer. I was so keen to have a moment of just having beer on at least one challenge. But yeah, super bummed that didn't happen. Did have my fair share of wine though.
That's okay.
At the merge feast and and then later on with Chappies there.
Lekker.
Great. Well, bro, so you say off in November?
Yeah, off at the end of November. Going to be going off to Treforest, which is 10 minutes out of Cardiff, and I'll be coaching there at the University of South Wales. Really, really looking forward to that.
Awesome, bro.
You know, just caught this past weekend's Rainbow Rugby, you know, the Rainbow Cup,
Yes.
and to see how, you know, our sides are doing against those European teams.
Yes.
I'd love to go and see what they're getting right that side, because I mean, all of our teams, even the ones we regard very strong, like the Bulls, the
Yes.
Sharks, are getting hammered right now.
That's the thing. What's the Sharks? Who did they have?
Warriors.
Warriors,
Yeah.
Because
Carl.
Carl played.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. And the Sharks are a strong rugby side. They've been through the Curry Cup now and the Rainbow Cup, all of that stuff. And the Warriors gave them an absolute, I wouldn't say hiding. They'd made a comeback, but initially they were getting a hiding. And I was like, these Oaks in the UK, there's just something there. And I think for you as a rugby coach now, experiencing South African rugby, everyone had the shit fit now with the Springbok rugby in New Zealand. We're on New Zealand's 10 or in their 22, and then we've got our beautiful scrum half sending an up and under for no apparent reason. Whereas now we've experienced that South African rugby, even when I did my level 1 as well.
Yeah.
South African mentality is There's the wall. We need to run through the wall.
Yeah.
Why do we teach our rugby players that? Why not run around the wall? Because that's what we've got. We've got the speedsters. We've got the Oaks who are agile on their feet. Why not do something that you get around the wall? And that's what the Lions always mention. They're like, why do we teach our South African rugby players to run through the wall? Then you're going to go to the UK now and you're going to learn a whole different side of rugby and see, like you say, what are they getting right that we're not getting right, that they're drilling us like that? So I think that's an awesome opportunity for you to broaden rugby knowledge, and then if you do come back here, instill that in here, then generations to come are going to be like, okay, we're going to start playing a bit of UK rugby for club experience and all of that stuff. So I think that's awesome, bro.
And obviously being in the coaching scene, you would have obviously heard about and seen those videos about the bad calls that were called for New Zealand against us.
Yes.
Did you see those posts where people were up in arms about how the ref was, making certain decisions that were trying to benefit New Zealand at the end of the day?
Well, look, I mean, if we're looking at the first test, I think we did a lot to sort of frustrate their natural flow.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of sort of stop-start from our end and, the physio coming on
they
quite a lot.
complained about it, New Zealand.
And they weren't too pleased about that. But then you fast forward a week later and it was literally roles reversed,
Exactly.
Now we wanted to play. Now the Springboks wanted to give us the game that, fans have been crying for.
Yeah.
More than happy to run it. And New Zealand are not doing it. So, yeah, and it did seem evidence. I think the refed it relatively well, but it did seem like, at least from their point of view, they was trying to slow things down a bit. And thankfully we got that one over the line.
We use that at school as well. So if you are playing I'm at Northcliffe, so you go play against a boys' school, and the boys' school's giving you a hiding. It's one of our tactics. It's called a frikkie go down. So now you the one. I'll use you as my frikkie. So I'm gonna be like, hey Jesse, sit. You sit. You part-time.
You got to make it the front row.
It works, and it's exactly how it is. It's going to take. It's literally, if you're the better team, it's going to take your mental capacity is going to have to be strong, because these oaks are slowing down the game. They're doing it for a reason, because it pisses you off, and that your whole game strategy is just going to go out there. So it's called a frikkie go down. It's the most smart tactic ever in rugby, because it screws everybody else's mentality over. And in the end, you have a chance of making a comeback because you've annoyed the other team. So
I've never experienced that, because I was always the better team.
Geez.
So they might have been doing it to us, but essentially
I can't even chime in there because he was part of the Trinity side that beat us.
Exactly. That's the thing, man. Yeah, that's the thing. I have the argument with him. Not an argument, but it's like, you'll bring it up and like, Cares rugby, this, Cares rugby. Jesse's like, well, I was part of the team that drilled you. And I'm just like, shut up.
And I scored that final interception try, so I was happy.
So I'm just like, oh, dude.
And that was at Cares Fair, so I wish there was footage of this game, because I've tried to YouTube it, I've tried to find it, because they televised those games.
Yeah.
I think they scrapped it when they saw.
Of course they.
Trinity House with 60 boys in a grade. We can't have this aired that they beat us.
Tactics,
man, it was a tough day.
But then the next year we got invited. And we got completely thrashed, because obviously that was in my grade 11 year that we won. Then we got re-invited in matric. And all of our games, we lost by 50 points. And then they're like, hey, well, Trinity, maybe you had one good year, but you can't come back here if you're going to be this bad at rugby.
Listen.
Oh, man.
Well, you've got that as your highlight reel. So
I don't, because I can't get the footage.
Okay, that's true. But
you'll
in your
always
mind,
know.
you can
You'll
own
always
it.
know.
I got that one photo of the board and all our team in front of it, and you can see the score. That's it.
Oh, that's okay. You can own that title. That's fine. We'll give it to you.
Bro, thank you so much for coming on, and we wish you all the best for your trip in November.
Thank you.
And we wish that, all the coaching success, all the success in your brand, in your collaborations with everyone that you work with, your teams. Is your team upset that you're leaving, your current team?
Look, it hasn't been easy. This is probably one of the better sides that I've coached at Pirates. We just took a unbelievable scalp by beating one of the universities. Last week we beat UJ, which hasn't happened in a minute. So it's difficult for me, probably more so than the players, because I'm really passionate about what I do and I love what I do. So it's tough to know that this will be the end of our chapter at the end of this season. But at least I do get to see out the rest of the season with them. So I'm at least chuffed about that. But yeah, just on my end, guys, Jester Radio, thank you guys so much for having me over today.
Of course.
And yeah, I'm really loving the show and loving what you guys are doing, man. Keep that up. Yeah.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Shout out to Jesse.
And thanks to the
Dope
co-host. Thanks, co-host.
Shot. I try my best, I promise.
And thank you guys for listening.